Voila, so this is my first opening picture from my journey. You see a bicycle. My decision to venture out to Africa on the bicycle was a combination of several reasons. One of them, I pretty much like moving and sport. The second, I've been kind of discouraged by the public transport availability and accuracy and reliability from my past journey to Africa. So I wanted to avoid spending excessive amount of time in the crowded buses, which also have some romance, but you know, traveling alone is even better, I guess. And the third reason why I've chosen a bicycle and later a kayak as well was that this journey from the very beginning was not only about myself, my own experience, but I wanted to share my experience with other people in the Czech Republic and beyond. And I guessed, which then turned to be right, that traveling on the bicycle would, especially in our small country, which Czech Republic is, would create, you know, a cloud of interest also from the media. And that was my intention. My intention was to publish as many stories about elephant poaching and elephant conservation as possible already during this journey. And, you know, being a young 24 years old boy from a small country in Europe in the middle of Africa was something which media people liked, and it helped me to penetrate to you know, vast majority of the mainstream media in Czech Republic. And I definitely enjoyed I didn't enjoy every kilometer in the saddle, but I enjoyed the trip as a whole. And my ultimate interest were two species of African megafauna, the African bush elephant and the forest elephant. Here, the picture taken in Congo Basin in the notably famous Zangabai, not far from Rod's place. And in order to be able to coordinate the support, to coordinate the media work around this journey, I gathered several of my good friends and also some new people which were interested in elephant protection or in spreading the awareness and message. And we've created this organization called Safe Elephants. It also has the English mutation on the internet, but right now undergoing some changes. So it's not completely fully available for the moment. And this organization was really like a grassroots initiative. None of the people founding with me this organization were experts in elephant conservation. None of them were really experienced travelers in Central Africa, but all of them were really passionate about trying to make a difference in this global crisis. And we are well aware about the boldness of the name Safe Elephants. We are aware that we are not able to save the elephants on our own alone, but it was a name which we believed would help to spread the message. Here is a very unorganized map of my journeys during this 1-year trip, 15-month long trip. You might see several colors of the lines. Maybe focus on the red first, but this map will reappear several times again during my talk. So the red line is representing the part which I made by bicycle. Altogether over 5,000 kilometers in southern Cameroon, northern Congo, parts of Gabon, Western Central African Republic, southern Chad, and northwestern DRC. And then the tangled network of brownish lines are stretches of land covered by public transport, hitchhiking, conservation organizations, vehicles, etc. And then which I'll talk later on. There are also some parts on the Sangha River and on the Gabonese and Congolese coast, which I made by kayak. So altogether, I covered some nearly 6,000 kilometers on the bicycle and kayak combined, and unknown number of thousands kilometers on the public transport and on the roads during that year. I didn't want to spend most of my time on the back of the bicycle, because of course you can experience wonderful and scaring things on the road itself as well, but the more interesting things are beyond. So my goal was not to make a world record in cycling, because first, I was not the person to be the record man in cycling. Second, my intention was farther to discover the elephant poaching. For much of the Congo Basin part, I've used some logging roads, or roads which are also used for timber logging, as you can see here. And one of my first experience from southern Cameroon and northern Congo, respectively, was that it was super easy to lay my hands on some illegal products. Note that I was definitely not looking as a millionaire. I was not driving, BMW. I was not wearing golden watches, but still, even dirty from the mud from the road, I was able to connect with different people, for instance, illegal gold miners. And even without asking, I have been offered issues like raw gold, and very soon, ivory as well. That's a picture of very little forest elephant ivory in southern Cameroon. And at the beginning of my journey, I was still surprised that so many of the ivory which I can see by poachers or traffickers respectively are of this size. Later on, when I started to go through CITES reports and Eagle network reports, I discovered that this is actually some kind of average ivory size which is being seized in the illegal market nowadays. That the big elephants, the big bulls are already gone or inaccessible in well-protected national parks, and much of the volume of the ivory is really consisting of 1 or 2 kilo ivory tusks, which is really scary to me. One short overview about the evolution of the poaching of elephants in Africa. This pike index, meaning proportion of illegally killed elephants from the 2003 until 2018, I guess, shows the percentage of carcasses artificially killed in several monitoring sites through Africa. And it's clear that in the year prior to my journey and during my journey, 2011, 2012, the percentage was nearly 7 out of 10 elephants have been killed by poachers illegally. The number now is dropping significantly, but still not, it's not ideal as well, but at least it's dropping by all the conservation means, and unfortunately also by the fact that elephants are less and less available. So when I traveled through these remote areas, it happened that I appeared on the places where I was able to put my hands on the illegal ivory, and I was like, so what can I do about it? I can take a picture of the guys, or I can take videos of the guys, but what next? Is it enough to maybe pursue them, or tip them to the local police or some international organization? And I was a bit lost in this topic, because that was my first time dealing with something like that. So I started to contact several people around, and I was trying to film some of the ivory traffickers dealing with the ivory, offering me the tusks. And originally I thought this would be enough to pursue them in the court. Very soon, when I met people, which I will then show, my friends and colleagues Ofir Drori and Naftali Honig from the Laga and PALF organizations, which are part of the Eagle Network, I realized that this is not enough, that I have to do more and that I have to carry on with these investigations. And if I want to make a difference, I really need to go through the whole processes and try to create a situation where these guys, the traffickers, can be caught red-handed directly in front of the police. This is something which I didn't expect before venturing out on my bicycle, and I was really not ready for it. So during my today's talk, I will try to give you several personal advices. These are probably not these advices cannot be taken into account in every case, but maybe if you are planning to do something similar to me, you can consider it. For instance, changing your internet path name or your media name. You know, at the very beginning, I started to publish the articles about my traveling as my real name, Artur Snegon. But then when it happened that I've been personally involved into some investigations and later also arrests, it would be probably more convenient and safer not to use my real name, change it, or maybe modify so that Google cannot really find it at the moment. I realized this a bit too late, so I had to deal with that otherwise, but a suggestion for some other people. This is actually a screenshot from my video, which I succeeded to make during a real arrest situation. These are two ivory traffickers in my hotel room in Yaoundé, Cameroon. In front of me on the bed, you can see two pairs of forest elephant tusks. And this is happening just 1 minute before the police enters the room and arrests all of us. These guys actually traveled from northern Congo all the way to Yaoundé to meet me and to sell me the ivory. And because of the wonderful involvement of the Laga organization, this situation has been well planned and prepared, and the police was sitting in the next room, and there was a bust when these guys have been arrested, and in the court, supported by the lawyers of the Laga organization, resulted in 1 year firm imprisonment in Yaoundé, which is quite a good result for Cameroon. And here I would like to thank one of the guys which really inspired me, and this is Ofir Drori, a legendary, originally Israeli activist, which is involved in pursuing wildlife traffickers throughout Africa. He started in Cameroon some 17 years ago, and now the network is growing farther and farther. His colleague, which I met in Congo, and which then became my closest colleague for several other years, is here on the left side, Naftali Honig, also a young activist which was leading the same or the sister organization PALF in Congo. Now a map about the distribution of the elephants, and this will be an example or a map explaining my reasons why I've chosen this part of Africa. Here in the middle, in the Congo Basin, you can see a big patch of elephant distribution, notably the forest elephant distribution in Gabon, Congo, Cameroon, and Central African Republic. And not only that this patch represents the biggest remaining refuge for the forest elephant, but also as it has been confirmed by some DNA analysis made by Samuel Wassers on the ivory seizures in Asia. Vast majority of the ivory seized in Asia comes either from this region or from Tanzania. And this means that the poaching is most prevalent in this remote part of Africa. The other reason why I really ventured here was that I wanted to use my bicycle on paths and roads which are non-paved, preferably. Yes, I wanted to suffer, and I did. And I believe that as far I will go, as far will I go out of the convenient roads, out of the centers, as many real experience with great local people I will have. And this is also one of my advice. If you want to experience a foreign country or even your own country, actually, right now I spend more time in Czech Republic, and the more remote, the smaller the town or village is, the more I got to learn the people and the culture. So I didn't regret that only probably 300 or 400 kilometers out of the 5,000 was on the paved road. The rest was sand, mud, dirt, and great people all around me. Sometimes there were no roads at all. And here I am in the Odzala-Kokowa National Park in northern Congo, or on its periphery actually, where I got to cross some streams in order to reach the core of the national park to see wonderful wildlife which is left there. Odzala-Kokowa being a protected area with the highest number of forest elephant population in Africa. It's a huge area of 13,000 kilometers with over 10,000 elephants, so which really puts the elephant density as well to one of the highest levels in Africa, despite that this is not the natural situation anymore. In the past, there have been probably much more elephants than nowadays, because the pressure on the African wildlife is never ending and not focused on elephants, of course, only. There are other taxa of primates, of ungulates, of pangolins, and others which are not targeted for some trophies, but on the bushmeat. And during the years, I mean, already during this journey, which was focused on elephants and ivory, I realized that the bushmeat is another ticking bomb in this region, because I've noticed much more bushmeat around along the way or along the roads than ivory. And really, during my next activities, my future activities in Africa, from 2014 until now, I mainly dealt with all kinds of bushmeat. And this is something which needs to be addressed by young people and everybody who can. One of the men which also inspired me and helped me at the beginning or before my journey itself was Leon Lamprecht. Here, back in the days, the director of the Odzala-Kokowa National Park in the Congo. Today, the Zakuman National Park director in Chad. It was actually quite funny how I started, because before I jumped on my bicycle, I contacted several people by email, and I made a short presentation saying that who I am, that I have some experience, but not really good experience in conservation in Africa, just some traveling experience, some volunteering experience from Czech Republic, some contact with wildlife and domestic animals, but nothing professional, and that I'm studying biology. And to my surprise, of course, many people answered me saying that they are not looking for something like me, but there were several of them which accepted my offer to come to document their work, to join them in their work, and to carry on with some of my planned activities. And Leon Lamprecht was one of them. He helped me to get the filming permit from this national park, so that I can stay legally in the park and not have to pay the daily entrance fee, which would ruin my budget. And because of him and several other people, I really was able to stay in Africa for more over 1 year. And here is one of the most majestic moments during my trip. Actually, there were two most majestic moments. One of them was observing dozens of forest elephants here on Zangabai in Sanga protected area, Central African Republic. And the second was observing a herd of more than 400 elephants, bush elephants in the Zakuma National Park from above, from an aircraft. So these two moments were absolutely stunning, and I recommend everybody to go to see those last remaining strongholds for forest and bush elephants as well. And here we are with my good friend Rod Cassidy on the far left, me in the middle on the kayak, and my two friends. This picture is already taken 2 years after my first trip, and this is just an example that Rod doesn't really get older. He still looks pretty much the same from the first year when I met him in 2010 until last year when we met last time so far. Rod is another great guy which helped me. He invited me to his lodge twice during my journey. First when I was heading north on my bicycle, and later south on my kayak. The second visit was quite tense because it was just a few months after the Seleka rebels took over the country. The northerners, also some people, and for sure some mercenaries from Chad, from Sudan, and from northern part of Central African Republic took over the government and the whole territory of the country, and ruled there for 1 year or so. And during that period, there was several tragedies happening in the country, of course, also in terms of poaching. So the world's famous Zangabai lost 26 elephants in one poaching incident in one day, just a few weeks before I came. And Rod was one of the first courageous people who was able to come back to this country and try to continue with his activities, employing people, organizing the ecotourism, and doing something. But this is several months before. It was actually at the end of the rule of the previous Bozizé government, on my way through Central African Republic northwards. This country was absolutely stunning. The roads were bad, the people were great, and I've seen several times this correlation. The worse the road is, the better the people are. Not talking about local armed forces and police. These people usually don't represent the average population. And here in Central African Republic, the police was really something unpleasant for most of the cases. Sometimes there were great people as well, of course, but most of the time I really had to bribe people, which I usually don't do. In most cases, I do my way without paying, but here it was hardly possible to go through without paying. So I had to rely on myself, on my bicycle. This was a Czech bicycle of a Superior brand. It's called Superior. And I knew that the roads will be bad, so I improved the bicycle somehow. One of the improvements was that I was using the metallic layers in my tires, and this really proved to be a good choice, because during the whole 5,000 kilometers with really big loads on the bicycle, I got only 3 flat tires. This is the first one. It literally exploded. Here in the middle of the tire, you can see the blast, or you can see the punch. And then the whole village, of course, helped me to repair the bicycle and to use the new inner tube and the outer tire as well. Then later in another village, I asked a shoemaker to help me repair the whole tire again. So, as I said, in Central African Republic, the people, despite some discouraging advices, were not the enemy. The people were great. The real enemy was the sand. Here is a stretch of 30 or maybe 40 kilometers of sand, which I had to cross in the central part of the country. And literally, I was not spending in the saddle, more than 30 minutes this day. And the rest of the time, I was just pushing and pushing and pushing the bicycle through these piles and dunes of sand. So this is here, the red line in the western part of the Central African Republic. And Here I am in Chad, in southern Chad, which welcomed me after a few weeks without internet connection. Once I left Rod Cassidy's place in Zangasanga for another 3 weeks, I was totally cut off any network, any connection. And when I reached Chad, I went to my email. I wanted to say hi to my family and everybody. And I realized that there was an article about a big massacre of bush elephants, not far from the place where I was. It was a several days fresh information. So I modified the direction of my journey, and I wanted to visit this place. I wanted to find out what happened. Already several kilometers before I reached the place of the massacre of the elephants, people in the villages were drying these chunks of elephant meat, bush elephant meat. There were piles of carcasses of more than 80. There were nearly 90 bush elephants killed during one single poaching incident. That was March 2013, not far from Fianga in Chad. And despite that there were no poachers caught after this incident, there were indices that the responsible guys are the so-called Janjaweed horsemen, which are originally from the Darfur region, Sudan. These people were involved during the Darfur crisis on the side of the Omar Bashir army, trying to fight against the rebellion, but especially doing some hostilities against the civilian population. And these people, when the Darfur crisis somehow cooled down, ventured out more to the west, more to the south. They were responsible for killing the elephants in the Zangasanga, and they were also responsible for killing all these almost 100 elephants in the Fianga region. This was one of the worst moments I've seen. This is a carcass site, only a few days old. Of course, the poachers only removed the tusks, which are of value for them. But given the proximity to local villages, the civilian population approached this area very soon after hearing so many gunshots, and they completely they opened all the elephant carcasses. They took all the meat with themselves to the families, and as far as I know, they were also not really willing to inform the local authorities about this incident, because of course there was a big pile of meat. They were probably afraid that the local authorities or government would keep them from sharing the meat, and that's why the news about the poachers and the chances to track them and fight them was really delayed from the very, very beginning. We've also seen some baby elephants, which were directly shot into the head or to the jaw. This is one of them. And this is one of the only known elephant orphan which survived the massacre. This is an baby elephant, a male elephant called Max, which his savers or rescuers, Wendy and Gary Roberts, found a few days after the incidents. By a big chance, I happened to be in the same moment, in the same spot, and I happened to be from the beginning of his rescue with these people, which are actually flying doctors in southern Chad back into these days, and they were actively participating on the search for this elephant baby and on his rescue. This picture is quite dim. It was taken during the early morning hours of the day, when Max is in the middle of the small Cessna, the four-seat Cessna, on his way from the carcass site to a safe haven in Gary's and Wendy's place in Bere in southern Chad. We've tried to save this baby elephant by all our means. None of them were elephant experts. None of them were really experienced with taking care of a small elephants. I had experience with puppies, kittens, and black bears in Canada, and horses in Czech Republic, but not elephants. But at the beginning, the several few days, it looked promising. Max was eating, drinking milk, the formula which we prepared for him, and it was looking optimistic, promising. Unfortunately, several days ago, I had to continue my journey to the Zakuman National Park. We got some sad news that Max passed away another week later because of consisting diarrhea, probably stress. And he was unfortunately not able to join the wonderful and today well-protected elephant herd in the Zakuma National Park. This is one of them. And this is one of the big bulls which remained in this protected area. Now, Zakuma National Park has been managed by African Park Network since nearly 10 years now. And this is one of the really good practice story and success story in conservation. Prior this involvement of African Park Network, there were more than 4,000 elephants during the Janjaweed and probably also some domestic poaching in the first decade of the 21st century. There was a big drop in elephant numbers, and only 450 or 400 elephants remained in 2012, 2013. When African parks took over, the situation has been stabilized, and since these years, there is none or several poaching incidents around the national park, but not within the borders of the national park. And this is one of the most majestic views which I experienced during my journey from above, from the bird's perspective. Believe it or not, there are 400 elephants in this single herd. And the picture has been taken from a small Cessna piloted by Rian Labuschagne, which was the director of the national park, and here his lovely wife Lorna, another two great people which understood what was my mission, what was my goal, and which helped me to continue my activities. I've spent several months in Zakuma National Park and in around, and one of the most fascinating and one of the most surprising moments during my journey was this close encounter with wild elephants. These are no elephant orphans, these are no tame elephants, these are just thirsty elephants. The dry season in Zakuma was peaking here in March, and these guys, adult elephant bulls, which probably know very well what harm people can do because they experienced the poaching a few years ago. They are driven by the thirst, close to the headquarters of the national park, and they even accepted water from the water hose. I was lucky enough to be in Zakuma National Park when another legendary conservator and well-known African wildlife vet came in. Here, after the left ear of the elephant, you can see Pete Morkel, a South African, Namibian-based veterinarian with vast experience with helping wildlife throughout Africa. He's also well known in Czech Republic as well, because he's one of the guys who is helping and backing the transport of rhinos from Czech zoos back to Africa, to Kenya or Rwanda. And here is Pete Morkel by putting another dose of the sedative to the big elephant bull in Chad, in the Lake Chad region. Here, in the butt of the elephant on the left side, you might see the dart, which is already in the elephant, but due his size, it was not enough. So Pete got to approach him by foot and manually put another dose to be able to tranquilize this elephant bull. That was the first time I finally saw an ivory so close on a living elephant. and I've seen all this beautiful structure, all this history which is carved in and which is grown to the body of the majestic elephant bulls. It's funny, not funny, it's interesting that despite the huge body mass of the Chadian elephants, their ivory is quite little. So it might be some genetic reason, or it might be also the heritage of the long-lasting and fierce poaching in the region. Here we are in the National Park of Sakuma with another tranquilized elephant during radio collaring, and here is a wonderful woman, my fellow citizen Markéta Antoninova, which is a biologist and conservationist involved during the past decade in many places, from Senegal to Benin, DRC, Kenya, South Sudan, and here Chad. Another wonderful lady which helped me to continue on my trip with great wildlife ranger Satangar Dongringar here in the Zakuman National Park. I used all this experience, all these fascinating meetings with people and wildlife to document the poaching story. So sometimes I was using the panoramas or the items which I was able to find to make some awareness pictures, and also to plan some future activities. Already during this trip, it happened that my journey it's not over when I finish. And my three main reasons why I made this was, first, to spread the awareness about the elephant poaching. Second, find out what I can do personally. And third, find out what other people can do and how can they be inspired and how can they be supported to join the elephant or wildlife protection in general. So, and one of the outcomes which one of the outcomes of this journey was my future activities in southern Chad. Here I am with my friends and colleagues in the southwestern tip of Chad with beehive fencing project. We've discovered with this man, Samuel Benu, my good friend from Chad, that bees are afraid of elephants. Few months later, when Googling, I found out that there are also people in Save the Elephants, in the well-known organization in Kenya, already have experience with beekeeping elephants to protect the fields against crop raiding elephants. So we knew that we are not on the wrong path, and we started to discover the topic more. And this is actually one of the reasons why I'm going back to Chad in another 2 weeks, and we will spread this project further and increase the number of already the several hundreds of beehives which you have in southern Chad. Another result of my journey throughout Central Africa was meeting Rian and Lorna in Zakuma National Park, a flat land which is for most of the year dry and hard. And one of the good transport means are the bicycles, actually. So here I am with my Czech friends already in Czech Republic, when we gathered some bicycles from our supporters, or we also got in touch with a Czech NGO called Bicycles for Africa, and we've shipped already several loads of repaired second-hand bicycles to several places in the Central African region. And here are the Zakuma National Park rangers doing some patrols or movements between patrols on the bicycle. And this is something which can be used, not permanently, of course, but in several situations. I believed, and Rian also believed, that bicycles are the best way to be used. During all these adventures, I realized that there are several ways how can we fight the elephant poaching crisis. First, we have to work with local communities in order to empower them to to teach them about the crisis itself, to offer them solutions or help them to to being successful in their own solutions. So working with the people on the ground and communities. Second, be really tough and never tireless in the investigations and in the repression, because even if the society is 100% saturated, wealthy, happy, healthy, there are always certain group of people who rather indulge in criminal activities, and that's why the repression is so utmost important for me. So this is the second component. Then the third component, which is maybe close to most of the people maybe even looking tonight, is the awareness in the countries where the problem begins, notably in Asian countries. As you might know, the ivory demand is the highest in Far East. Vietnam, China, mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, other countries as well. The role of the US, of the Western Europe is going down and down, and is not significant anymore. But the Asia is still the number one importer of ivory, in the past legally, nowadays illegally. And that's why I decided that I will do my best to spread the message to the Eastern countries as well. And this is something which I want to improve in our organization, in Safe Elephants, because I think that with the huge volume of the materials which I have videos, I have photos, I have people in the ground which can talk. I have some investigative undercover footage. I have friends in Asia, and I will try to focus more on my attention into raising awareness in the Far East and beyond, of course. But now, for the last time, before I'm done, I will describe the final part of my journey. At the end, after visiting the Sahel region, Lake Chad, Zakuma, Northern Central African Republic, I crossed the Central African Republic again, already during the Seleka period. To my surprise, the local people, the normal people were still great. The corrupt police and other checkpoint members, checkpoint armed forces were not present anymore. Of course, there were many, probably even more rebel or the Seleka checkpoints. But to my surprise, they were more polite than the previous legal government. So in most cases, we've just chatted few minutes. Maybe we shared a tea. Sometimes they really insisted that I will give them like $1 or $2. But in most of the cases, I was able to go through without paying anything. And keep in mind that these guys were the tough guys. Even people in Chad or in DRC were discouraging me from entering the country again. But still, my experience was good. This is not to excuse the atrocities which happened during this period, of course, but they were both-sided, not one-sided. But my personal experience was good. There was also a tough moment for me when I visited southern Cameroon again, notably the townlet or the small town of Djoum and around, which was and probably still is known for elephant poaching. I realized that after spending 2 weeks in the region, pretending that, of course, in collaboration with the LAGA organization, pretending that I'm willing to buy some ivory, I was able to meet over 30 people involved in the ivory trade. From the corrupt local police who are transporting and covering the trade, from corrupt and bribed local court president or procurators, owners of lodges, owners of taxis, owners of local restaurants, women owning the restaurants and at the same time renting hunting weapons, AK-47s, and selling ammunition. eco guards, I mean wildlife rangers, also involved in this poaching, and then foreign Spanish legal safari company, which is hunting also forest elephants in this region, and also one of them European employee, which was covering the poaching itself. So in less than 2 weeks, I met more than 30 people involved in ivory trafficking operations just in this town itself. And this was something terrible, as well as seeing this little elephant tusk. It was the elephant poacher and police in the same person who brought me this as a gesture. And he said that this elephant baby has been intentionally killed. It was not a by kill, like a collateral damage. It was really intentionally killed to retrieve this, minute amount of ivory. Because the price on the black market was so high that even spending money for the ammunition was still something which made sense for the poacher to kill this little elephant baby. Another frightening moment was when I visited Kinshasa, the capital of DRC, where on the blank day in the middle of the city, not far from the police station, I've seen several hundreds of kilos of worked ivory for sale. There was also hippo ivory, there were leopard skins, there was precious timber statues, etc., etc. But many ivory items. Of course, that was absolutely illegal, but nobody was really taking it seriously in this country until a few years later, when some foreign and local organizations made several busts on this market and hopefully stopped this trade. One of the results which came out from this experience from investigation was that it was really difficult to rely on all the armed forces or all the legal apparatus in these countries. And with Naftali Honig from the PALF organization, we realized that it would be wonderful to use sniffer dogs. And this is the continuation of my journey, or not the journey, but the continuation of my activities from 2014 all the way to 2019, when I was helping to create and then running and spreading and dividing the dog projects in the Republic of Congo. Here is the first anniversary of our Congo-born litter of Belgian Malinois Shepherds, and this is another great story which I might be able to talk about next time. At the very end of my journey in Africa, it was wonderful that also my lovely family was able to visit me for 3 weeks. On the far left, my father, then my younger sister, and in the middle, my mother, which visited me in southern Cameroon with other of our friends and collaborators and local friends. And I didn't say it on the very beginning, but one of the factors which really helped me to start and to successfully finish my journey was my family. From the very beginning, my parents were really helping me. They also supported financially the first steps of the journey before we were able to raise some money through the campaign or through the organization. Without them, I would not be able to probably go so far or go so fast. So my big thanks belong to them as well to all the other people which I met along the way intentionally, like the names which are already mentioned, or some unknown people which helped me here or there when I really needed it. On the very end of my journey, when my family visited me, I finally got also my kayak. This is an inflatable checkmate kayak, which was absolutely suitable for me because I knew that I will not be going one one single stream, but I will probably switch it. Sometimes I will go on my bicycle, sometimes on my kayak. So I needed something which can be easily wrapped together and, you know, and being carried on my back. So my baggage even increased. Maybe altogether I was carrying over 80 kilo on the bicycle, plus myself, my own 70 kilo. And it was quite challenging. Sometimes on the Congolese and Gabonese coast, I was able to use the beach itself, the never-ending white beaches full of sea turtles, sometimes of elephants as well. Sometimes I suffered, and I suffered a lot. Another patches of sand, which was really difficult, not only to me but also for the bicycle, for the chain and you know, all the greased parts. I was using the bicycle, the kayak on the smooth lagoons. I met wonderful local people, and I spent much of the time outside, camping on the beach. And here people were asking me what was the most dangerous moment during all my trip, whether it was some encounter with the poachers or traffickers, or you know, traffic accidents, or something else, or sickness. I suffered several times, 3 times malaria, but I always go through without any problems. But the really dangerous moment was probably that one. I was camping here in the middle. You can see my tent and my bicycle in the middle of the beach, and it's between the ocean and between a freshwater lagoon, which was behind the beach. And during the night, the water from the lagoon broke through the beach. Here you can already see the scene few hours after it happened. And these millions of cubic meters of water, you know, was pouring to the ocean, where it met the windy coast and wind, you know, quite big waves, and it really made something dangerous. And I was so afraid what would happen if this catches me in the middle of the night when I was sleeping inside the tent with, you know, many things inside the tent, without my knife ready to be able to cut out of the tent. So this is something which threatened my life if it was closer, and if I would be dragged by the stream to the ocean. So my advice: always choose where you sleep. Even the smooth beach can be very dangerous. You know, just few moments later. And here, that was my last experience, my last encounter with elephants. Altogether, during my 1-year trip, I met over 700 elephants. Of course, vast majority of them in the Zakuman National Park and in Zanga-Sanga, but then several other individual encounters. And one of the most magic was that one, because I was alone on my kayak on a calm lagoon in Gabon, Loango National Park. And this guy, long tusker of the forest elephant, was just swimming a few meters in front of me, foraging on these papyrus bushes, and we were staring at each other. And I was feeling super happy and super lucky to be so honored to finalize my journey with this elephant, you know, watching me. And you know, with this wonderful experience, I jumped because there was scarce of time, lack of time to be able to finish this trip before the Christmas. I wanted to be with my family for the Christmas. So for the last part, reaching northern Cameroon, I used public transport again. And the reason was that I didn't want to bring my bicycle back again. I rather wanted to use it for some good cause. And I visited again one of the most remote areas in Cameroon, the Poli town, not far from the Nigerian border. And I approached 2 elementary schools, giving a presentation for the children in the classrooms, and then initiating a competition, a drawing competition, which would then give as a result a winner. People on the internet voted for the best image of the elephants, and finally the winner, here a young boy called Garwa Vanagolja, with his picture on the left, who won my bicycle. And here he is already in his village, in front of the house of his in front of the house door. And this moment was absolutely touching for me, not because of his joy only, but because of the joy of all the children, all the crowd of several dozens or maybe hundreds of children who participated, who were so happy and expressing their their joy and enthusiasm when participating on this competition. And as I said, some of these information are available on our website, also on the English mutation or English version, but not completed yet. And okay, I wanted to say something about my movie, but let me turn it another way around. So first of all, as I was talking about the awareness, one of the things which I want to spread further is our campaign called Evil Worry, a combination of evil and ivory, which is documenting the journey of the ivory from the African bush all the way to the boutique in Asia. And with several Czech artists and photographer, we've made a series of these pictures documenting the journey, and several participants on this illegal bloody trade, ivory collectors and clients which are not aware about the origin of the ivory. These posters are already available in several European and also Asian languages. Right now we are finalizing the Chinese version. We already have the Japanese and Vietnamese available, and this will be very soon available on our website. So everybody who has the overlap with the Asian culture, whether people are really living directly in Asia or the community dwelling in their own country, will be more than happy to spread or share this campaign to them, and try to post it wherever possible, because I believe that many people would change their approach if only they knew what is happening. And then a few words about my movie. Today I presented you only the stills, only the images of my adventure, but this is not exhausting. My 15-month journey was especially filmed on the video. The most interesting moments are caught on the camera and available freely on the YouTube under the name of the title of the movie called Here Be Elephants, with English subtitles. When you press the subtitle, the CC button on the bottom right of the video, it's divided in 15 independent stories or interlinked stories, and you are really welcome to follow this journey which I made 8 years ago, but which was a game changer in my life, and which I'll never forget. And I'll never forget the support of so many lovely people who joined me along this way and who enabled me to be useful. I believe that during this trip, I inspired several people, and my activities afterwards also inspired a whole bunch of others. This is actually which I can already see that it succeeded, because some of the volunteers or some of the early supporters, which started also as myself, as unexperienced people, unexperienced passionates about wildlife in Africa, already evolved to zoologists or conservationists, which are focused, for example, on pangolins or in situ projects, and are managing some zoological garden programs in Asia or in Africa. Some other people who ventured out on the bicycle and spreaded the media outreach of the conservation and poaching topics throughout the world. So I believe that it was one of the best things which I could have done in my life, and I would recommend everyone who has the chance and who has the um, inspiration and the energy to do that or do something else or similar to go for it, not be afraid, because of course the danger exists. I also didn't know how this will end, but finally it happened. It happened to be a success story. But in any case, trying is the least which all of us can do. And I highly encourage all of you to do what you like to do and what must be done in this world. Voila. I was talking more than 1 hour, which was not planned. I hope that I was not boring. I was not boring people around, and I thank you for your attention, and I greatly appreciate your invitation. Thank you.
But yeah, thank you, Arthur. I mean, amazing talk. Your courage and bravery. I don't know. I think most people would say you're crazy and you're nuts, but we all actually jealous of what you've done and you've accomplished. And it's unbelievable. I mean, you spoke about the many dangerous situations that you went through. Had you ever been arrested or kind of captured or anything like that during the time? I mean, the story of Steve Mcgowan kind of springs to mind. I'm sure you've heard of him. The South African guy who was basically taken hostage in Mali for 6 years. And I think that's the sort of part that makes most of us around here nervous of doing this. And yeah, I'd just like to understand your thoughts. Have you ever been like close to being imprisoned or anything like that?
Thank you for your encouragement. I have to say no. The only arrests during this trip was the fake arrest during the ivory seizure operation in Yaoundé, which was faked so that the traffickers don't really understand who is behind all of that. But of course, several times I have been delayed on my journey, and I was in the hands of somebody who would be able to arrest me. Actually, one of the pictures which I already didn't comment, one of the very last pictures when I'm on the bicycle sitting with the driver in front of me and the machine gun guy behind me. That's actually one moment when I was crossing South Central African Republic during the Seleka period. I crossed a few villages, and then I've been approached by a motorbike driver and this AK guy, and they told me that I've crossed a checkpoint or a headquarters of some local military outposts without being controlled, without being checked, and I have to turn back. And at this moment, I started to be anxious. The guys were smiling, but I didn't know what will happen when I would go back. So I put my bicycle to the village. I jumped to the motorbike, and the picture I took was already on the way back. That's why all of us are smiling. But when I was driving back to meet the general of the Seleka, I was really not feeling great. Finally, it happened to be a man from Chad, so I was able to to greet him in his language. I was able to say that I passed through his region a few months ago, and we just chatted about my experience. And at the very end, he gave me a banknote. I mean, the highest banknote possible in Central Africa, 10,000 francs CFA, and told me that this is for the coffee or tea next time. And he sent me back on the motorbike. So that was a moment when I was feeling really in danger. Finally, it was great. But to answer your question, I've been then arrested once in Chad, but a few years later. And it was just because of the fact that I was in the wrong place in the wrong moment. It was like a legal prefect of the area. So he had the right to do that. Of course, his reasons were not existing. He was insisting that there is something wrong with my papers, which was not right. But finally, after spending one night and one morning in the prison, all of them understood including himself, that there is no reason to hold me further. But you said that I was crazy. Yes, to some extent, definitely yes. But I also didn't intentionally select the most dangerous places. For instance, at the beginning of my journey, I wanted to continue from Zakuma to the southeast, cross Sudan, cross South Sudan to go to Garamba National Park in DRC. And it was not possible because of the civilian unrest in Sudan, South Sudan borders, and because of the strike of rangers in the park, Garamba itself. So of course I was not so crazy to go to the worst place possible, but it's true that some of the areas were not really touristy at all.
Okay, thanks. We have Pippa Harif has a hand up. Pippa, if you would like to.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Arthur. It's incredible that it's wonderful to have such a champion as you to champion such a worthy cause. Incredible. I've got two questions. One of your pictures showed that massive lorry with those massive logs. And as I understand it, there is some connection with the bushmeat trade and the logging trade. Is the logging trade all legal, or is it controlled? And my second question is, do the forest elephants and the bush elephants, is there an overlap in their distribution at all? Or are they completely distinct?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your questions. As I mentioned, the logging and the bushmeat problematics then caught my attention, and I've been really into this project for several other years. Central Africa, especially countries as Southern Cameroon, Congo, and Gabon, are one of the biggest sources of hardwood for Europe and for China as well, because of the proximity to Europe, especially Southern Cameroon. And the logging concessions are attributed for several dozens of years for some international companies, usually of European or Asian origin, or a combination of local and Asian origin. For example, in Congo, there are like 13 million hectares attributed to the logging, and over 60% of them is attributed to originally Asian companies, China, Singapore, Malaysia. And it is legal. They are running usually selective logging operations. The extracting rate can be quite low. It can be like 1 or 2 trees per hectare, which doesn't destroy the forest completely. From above, it looks pretty much the same green. For many animals, it wouldn't be such a harm. For example, gorillas would cope quite well with it. They would also welcome the new vegetation coming out along the paths. Forest buffaloes as well, forest elephants as well. Chimpanzees would be more affected because they are so territorial. When they move out of the territory during the logging operation, they cross another chimpanzee clan and they are being killed. There is a big problem of that. And they also rely much more on the fruits, which are also targeted, by the big fruiting trees, which are also targeted by the logging operations. So it is legal. It is usually selective. So if in the ideal world, it would be not harmful for the whole community of the wildlife, but unfortunately, there is a lack of enforcement of the rules. So sometimes, of course, the quota are not being respected, and organizations, even from the Eagle Network, which I recommend to follow, for instance, the Gabonese organization in the wildlife the Conservation Justice, run by Luc Matot, is something, is an organization also involved in tackling the illegal logging. But the most problem is not only the reaching the quota, but especially not respecting what should follow after the logging operation. After the rules, the route should be blocked. It should be locked down and surveyed for any other illegal perpetrators. But of course, this is not happening. So already during the operation and afterwards, a huge community of gold miners, poachers, ivory poachers, commerçants, and the families are pouring in and in. They are extracting the things out. Sometimes also because of the lack of some provisions, availability from the logging companies themselves, the workers, they have to rely on the resources around. So themselves they hunt, or they collaborate with some hunters which are based in the logging camps. They go hunting the bushmeat for the consumption of the workers, because even despite it is agreed with the government that the company will provide food on the convenient price, they usually don't. And it's really unfortunate that many of the companies, usually those who are originally from Asia, they do not follow any, like for example, Forest Stewardship Council rules or criteria, and they don't need it. They will still find market for the timber, even if it's like blood timber, and this is a big problem. So yes, the opening of the forest is really dangerous. It would be great to collaborate with these companies, to help them or to push them to follow the rules, because in most of the countries which I know, the rules are quite well written. The selective logging is something which will probably happen. It's better than the big scale, logging, but unfortunately it's not really working well. And your second question, yes, I believe there are some overlaps of those two species. I know about already the elephants in Garamba, for example, in northeastern DRC is probably a zone of overlap, probably also of some hybridizations of those two. Probably the Chinko area in Central African Republic as well. Maybe the Budongo forest in Uganda, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe that also some parts of central Cameroon, north of Yaoundé, between Yaoundé and Ngaoundéré, might be places where both of those species historically appeared or appear nowadays. I'm not really familiar with the situation in West Africa, in the Upper Guinean forest, but I believe it must be also similar there, maybe Cote d'Ivoire or Guinea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Do you see some more questions?
Yeah, we had one from Kolia, and I saw Amy was also waving her hands around, so maybe we should start with Kolia, Rod?
Yeah, Kolia.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Arthur. It was so amazing. I would like to know, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you arrived at a village and you couldn't speak their language and you had to manage in a way to try and communicate with them? What was your experience around that?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I really visited hundreds of little villages, and not only in those where I spent my nights or where I was eating, but also those where I just stopped over for a few minutes. I had to interact with local people, which were in 99% of cases positive, sometimes over positive. So I was a bit tired of human interaction. So I really wanted to be, outside in the forest, and I just had to breathe out and not repeat who I am, where I'm going, and so on and so on. So the contact with the local population was always great. But prior to my journey, as Dean said, I kind of jumped out of the cliff, and then I learned how to fly, in terms of, for example, using my camera for filming the footage. It was really my first footages in my life were already part of my movie. So I evolved in this. but I didn't want to underestimate the communication aspect of the journey. So I got to learn French before, and I also ordered some books for beginners in Lingala, which is the language, the lingua franca spoken in both Congos and around. I got some basic phrases in Fulfulde, which is the Fulani people language, Northern Cameroon and Chad. I got some few phrases in Chadian Arabic. And with this set of local and colonial languages, I was always able to find some people who are able to communicate with me. So unfortunately, during this, actually, yes, you are right. Once, when I visited southern Chad and the Mbororo population, it is actually in the place where we now carry out our beehive project. I visited the family speaking only Fulfulde and only Sango. And my Fulfulde phrases were exhausted very soon. So I had to communicate somehow with this lovely family on my own. And it was beautiful. And we spent almost a full night under the moon together. We are trying to speak about Americans on the moon and about satellites and about everything in a language which doesn't exist. Then my good friend, my good Cameroonian friend arrived, so we were able to translate the most important. But yeah, we managed well along without the words or without the real words. But it's definitely a good advice to try to broaden the horizons of yourself in other languages. I had an advantage being a Czech, which nobody speaks out of saying I want one beer. So nobody speaks Czech in the world. So I got to learn many different European languages from the very beginning of my life. And then, adding some other Afrikaans was not a big deal for me, but it's definitely something which helps to meet people.
That's amazing. I want to ask a last question, if I may. I was wondering, what camera did you use and how did you keep your devices charged? Because you didn't have electricity.
Yes.
That's a good question.
For most, I was using a Nikon, one of the cheaper models. It was Nikon D5100, I believe, yes. And some lenses. I also got one telelens, the 80 to 400 millimeters, and I also got one GoPro in the rain, in the waterproof casing, and that's it. And yeah, surprisingly, I used these actually the big camera, the Nikon. I used it for the undercover footages as well. Because I was playing a role of a young tourist, just with my camera hanging on my neck. Back into these days, people probably didn't know that this type of camera can also turn videos. So I was not touching the camera. It was just, over my shoulder. And many of the videos are already, are actually made on this normal camera. Today, I would probably use my phone. And you don't really have to invest too much into some other techniques like glasses or some really super spy camera. It can help, but it's also not super reliable, at least my own experience. I didn't got the James Bond, the James Bond set of technical items. So I recommend something basic, which and yeah, if you get close enough to the people and to the situations, you are able to document it on the normal devices. And I was charging it partially on the sun. Yeah, that's why my load was so heavy, because I really got, I got a tripod, I got a solar panel, I got maybe 10 kilos of tools to repair my bicycle. Finally, I didn't need them actually, because as I said, only 3 flat tires during the whole trip. So there are several things which I didn't touch at all during my trip, but in every bigger village or smaller towns, there is a diesel generator or there is a post office with some electricity during part of the day, or so it was not unsolvable situation. And of course, I get a whole pack of spare batteries and spare accumulators. That's something which need to be considered before you go out.
Thank you, Arthur. Before we open it up for anybody, I think Amy wanted to ask a question also. I just want to mention that Lance Steenkamp has been asking a question in chat. So after Amy, we can attend to that. I know in one of the previous sessions, Lance never got a chance to ask his question. So after you, Amy, it's Lance. But for now, just again, final thank you from my side to Arthur for this incredible example you are setting, and your commitment and your tenacity, and just this thing that shows if you want to and you really mean what you do, you're passionate about what you do, one man does make a difference. So well done to you. Thank you, Arthur, and much appreciated that you put these slides together and that you shared with us tonight. Also, thank you to Dean that you came in on the youth talks with us. Hope in future we will see more of you on here. And thanks to all the students and all the junior honorary rangers and all the people like Dave Pepler, who falls in the category of youth, and Janssen Davies also. They're just over the 40s now. So we thank all of them, and wonderful to have all of you on. So Arthur, at this point, the numbers are becoming lower, so people can also unmute themselves. And I think Amy Young, and then Dean, you take it from there, and also Lance Steenkamp, and then we can just see. And when we get to one screen, we terminate the session. Thanks to everyone. And again, from my side, thanks to Arthur.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris, for your support.
Thank you. All right, over to you, Dean and Amy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go for it, Amy.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Arthur, for telling your story about this journey. I actually wanted to touch on something that Chris was just mentioning. The journey in and of itself was amazing, and everything you learned while you were there. But you talked about 2 projects that you have that are still ongoing. I wonder if you could just briefly tell me at what stage you are working with the beehive fences and the anti-poaching dogs. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 things I've researched and visited on site before, so I'm curious, have they been going for a while, or are they just getting going, and what direction are you looking to take them?
Yeah, so these projects are actually two of the main initiatives that our organization supports, and I don't say carry out, because we only support it. You know, we help to initiate it, but it's much bigger, and we don't have the manpower means, we don't have the financial means to be fully responsible for it. But in the case of the detection dog projects in Congo, we started with training support and dog donation support, and then material and financial support of the New Beginning project under the PALF organization. They started with 2 dogs from Israel, and soon after, a few months later, we've donated a Czech dog, a female, and it happened that we got our own litter, by crossing those dogs. And for a few years, this project has been running independently under this organization, offering joint missions and on different checkpoints throughout the country, with partners like African Park Networks, WCS, or WWF, or the local Ministry of Environment itself. So we made like sting missions back and forth in different angles of the country. And the sources of financing the project were different, starting from the US Fish and Wildlife Service, European Union, some private like Arcus Foundation, then Rafford Foundation, and Aspinall Foundation as well, and our Safe Elephant involvement as well. So finally, we were not able to incorporate this project fully under the local Ministry of Environment, unfortunately. But last year, it happened that they were fully integrated into 2 organizations. One of them, the Odzala Kokua National Park, run by African Park Networks, and the other in Chimpunga Wildlife Sanctuary, run by Jane Goodall Institute in Congo. And those 2 big organizations, big experienced people involved in took over. And nowadays, I personally and we support them only partially, because they are already under control of those big stakeholders. In the case of the Beehive project in Chad, it is still something smaller, and we collaborate with the local NGO called Association for the Fight Against the Poverty, run by the Samuel Benu person in Chad. And actually this year, as we are gathering more funds, which we don't need in Congo by the dogs, we will focus on spreading the initiative in Chad, which works. We've tested it several times that those fields which are protected really are protected, and people want to get part of it. And the only thing which was slowing down the project was the structure. I mean, the organization, the coordination, and the sustainability. Because I really believe that by producing so much honey and marketing it in a good way, we are able, or the project or the people themselves are able to make enough money to spread the project into other places, other villages, and so on, and really get out of the poverty into some extent. But this is still not happening. So right now we are just protecting the fields, but it doesn't have any other outcomes out of the honey. But I really believe that by more guidance, this can be more independent and more successful, and that other villages, other farmers will join in, without our financial need to support them. So this is my goal for this year, respectively the next year, as I did with the dogs in Congo, to incorporate them in something better and sustainable, do the same in Chad with the Beehive project. And actually we are not sticking only with the elephants, but we will try to help solving also the hippopotamus issue in this region. The cohabitation or coexistence with local people and hippos.
Great, excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Arthur. Chris, you said you wanted Lance Steenkamp. You didn't get a chance last time, so we got Lance and Bianca. They've both put questions here, but let's go with Lance first. Lance, are you still here? Can we unmute him so he can ask the question himself?
Yes, hello. Thank you. I was just wondering if you would, Arthur, if you would do this again if you had the chance and the funding, and do you think you made a difference in conservation?
I would definitely do something like that again. I believe that I would do it better, because now I already know the mistakes, or maybe a bit better approaches. But of course, after finishing this journey, I had several choices what to do. Either I could have continued my studies, or find a job in one of these big organizations and become a professional biologist or conservationist in one of those organizations, or making another journey. I was thinking for quite a long time to do something similar in Asia, on the Asian elephants, or do something else in Africa or South America. Finally, I was able to carry on with the projects as the dogs and other investigations and the beehives in Central African region. So I remained there, but yeah, I'm still craving to do something like that, or even more than myself. I wanted to help other people to accomplish something of this kind, and it would be better prepared on the beginning. There'll be more aspects, and so that the impact would be greater. and you ask me if I believe if I made the difference. Yes, but I believe it could have been bigger if I knew, if I knew what I learned. But this is always like that. You never know what. You always have to learn by your own experience, and nobody can tell you exactly what to do, what will bring the success or what will make the difference. But I believe that locally we definitely made a difference. Hopefully some of these projects will be also long term and will be valid, even for the future, and maybe they helped to with births of another ideas or another projects. I already know that there are other dog projects in Congo which happened because of our. There are another beehive projects, happening in Cameroon and in Chad, also out of our activities. There are investigators which were involved because of my stories into the illegal ivory trade, not only in Africa but also in Europe. And sometimes those people were from Asian origin, and they were involved, and they brought about some arrests of the traffickers. So definitely, yes, there were some good outcomes. But now 8 years later, I would know better how to do that, and I'm keen to repeat something like that, either on my own or supporting somebody else to do that.